In today's video, we are going to be talking about what we learned from the Club World Cup for Chelsea because obviously there is a lot to unpack from this tournament going into this upcoming season because, again, we're champions of the world. We obviously want to celebrate, but we want to break down what we did learn from this tournament. Now, I think there's plenty to unpack. Now, granted, some people might say there's not too much because it could have been considered a friendly. Obviously, the people that weren't in it, that's what they're considering. But as a Chelsea fan, I do believe this tournament did warrant a big win, not only for Chelsea, but for future tournaments going forward, because I do believe this was a tournament that a lot of big top tier clubs did care about. I believe PSG cared about the way they reacted in the final, Bayern, Real Madrid, just to name a few clubs that really did try to go and win this tournament. Now, the first thing we need to talk about is Enzo Maresca and his flexibility, because this by itself, we saw in this tournament what he can actually bring to the table. Way back when we signed him from Leicester, a lot of the fans were talking about that this man only had one plan option, that he never had an option B, C, or D. I would disagree with that now. From what we saw in this tournament, he definitely has multiple different tactics and flexibility, not only from game to game, but also within the matches as well. We've seen this throughout this tournament, and we understand that the players themselves understand his philosophy and are also willing to play under those tactics, and they do perform quite well. Obviously saw it in the final against PSG. There was multiple different tactics that he did go into, and obviously there's been multiple videos talking about this. I also made a video, you can go back and watch it. But like I said, the tactics he used for that are way different than what he used against some of the Brazilian sides. And again, even some of the other smaller clubs we played against who did the low block, we obviously had to change the tactics for that, but we did win the games that we needed to win. Granted, we lost one, but it did work in our advantage. We obviously went to the other side of the bracket, and that's a whole different story. But that being said, the flexibility that we've seen from Enzo Maresca is something that we need to, again, address, and hopefully we can continue to see that in the Premier League, because obviously it's going to be different when we play, say, a Sunderland compared to a Liverpool, to maybe a Tottenham. Each and every team is going to obviously have their tactics. And so again, we're looking at possibly seeing how we can switch it up against them. The second thing we need to look at is the player mentality, because not just winning the Conference League, which again, Chelsea obviously were fan favorites and huge favorites for that tournament. The amount of money we've spent, it's no surprise that we did make it to the final with only losing one match to Warsaw, which again was a bit of a knock, but maybe we needed and deserved that knock from Warsaw at Stamford Bridge, because maybe it gave us some more fuel and again give us a drive to go all the way to win against Real Betis. But that being said, even though we did again struggle a little bit in the beginning of the group stages of the Club World Cup, overall I think the team by itself played very well, and we saw this, how great this team can actually perform. The fact that we didn't give up a single goal in any first half match just shows you how good our defense has been, and we're going to talk about that in just a second, but how good this team actually has become since the beginning of last year when Enzo Maresca first came in, and even the goals we scored. We scored some beautiful goals, and obviously it helps with the players we brought in, João Pedro, Liam Delap, just to name a few people. And like I said, this is a big talking point for Chelsea moving forward, because obviously if the players can understand and again get behind the mentality of what the manager is trying to perform, it makes a huge difference. The third thing, obviously, then is the defense. I think, again, this is something that maybe have gone under the radar for us in this entire term. But the fact that we only, again, allowed teams to score in the second half just shows you how good this back line has been. And not just the starting four, because obviously we did pick and choose different defenders to play in different matches. We obviously had some suspensions, had to use different CBs. We even rotated goalkeepers at least once. And Robert Sanchez, I'm going to throw him in the defense as well. The entire back line did phenomenal, and the fact that, again, multiple matches kept clean sheets just shows you that this team is now starting to gel. And if that is the possibility that can go into the Premier League, it's going to be very difficult for teams not only come to Stamford Bridge, but anytime Chelsea go to any away match, it's going to be difficult for teams to break them down. And like I said, it all depends on injuries, because obviously Reece James is a big factor in this back line, being our captain, but even Levi Colwill, Cucurella, and I think Tosin and Chalobah will rotate quite a bit, but I think Trevor Chalobah is the starting CP along with Levi Colwill. But like I said, all four of those guys can stay fully fit. It makes a huge difference, and obviously Moise Caicedo makes a huge difference in that CDM role with our defense, because he does stop so many attacks coming down the middle of the pitch, and therefore, again, this is something that Chelsea can look forward to. And on top of that, we just mentioned before, but the goal scoring has also improved, and that does come from a few signs we've made. But just the capability of the players playing so well, finding these pockets of space, making the opportunities, and actually taking advantage of those opportunities is a huge difference, because last season, multiple matches, we had so many opportunities to put games away or actually win games, and we just could not do it. We saw it throughout this tournament, and like I said, with the confidence that this is helping with us, we should see this team score more goals, be more defensive, not letting up as many goals, and therefore, again, winning more matches, which should see us, again, compete for the title this upcoming year. So, like I said, big things we did learn from this entire tournament, and I do think there's more to come from this, and obviously there's still a little bit of a preseason, but like I said, I think this was almost treated for Chelsea's preseason, but also a very good competitive tournament for them to really show their worth, and again, give them the confidence boost that they did need. And I do believe they come into the Premier League this season, they have depth, so obviously they can rotate players, so they shouldn't really have to worry about fatigue at all, even though they played one of the most matches for the Premier League last year, or this year, depending on how you want to look at that. But because of that depth, they should be able to still rotate those players. And I do believe they come out and just smash it for the first handful of matches. They should be top of the table, or again, right there in the title contention for at least the first couple of weeks. Obviously, anything can change from there, but they really should go out and win the first 4 matches, 5 matches, and have 15 out of 15 points. So I do want to know, what do you think about Chelsea? What did you learn from the Club World Cup? What do you think is going to happen with this upcoming season? And if you are new to this channel, we do lives as well. So again, feel free to join those lives while we hop in. We do commentating for matches when those matches happen. So again, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe down below, and I will see you in the next video.